They might be self-aware.
Broadcasting live from the heart of machine intelligence. I am Hunter Powers, joined as always by
Daniel Bishop, who wonders if you have a different one of those for every episode. And did you write them or did AI write them? Hunter. I'm asking the hard questions right off the bat. Hunter Powers, co-host.
You know, I like to think of it as a collaboration. I like to think of it as a collaboration.
You collaborate by saying, do all my homework for me. And then it collaborates the rest of it for you.
I have some bad news to share.
Did you break up your sycophantic relationship with ChatGPT?
No, that's no. Okay. And I'd prefer that you had a little more, dignified respect for my relationship with the AI models. But I have been losing sleep over something. And I feel like I just need to put it on the table and put it out there so that, no surprises. Transparency is a good thing. It's honest. I'm being honest. And I have come to the conclusion that I don't know if you know this, but Mark Zuckerberg has now officially launched his AI, I believe, Superintelligence supergroup, but it's called the Superintelligence and then supergroup thing. And apparently they are paying $100 million a year to the people in this group. And I have made the decision that if I'm offered a spot on this team, I'm going to take it, and that would mean I would have to leave the They Might Be Self-Aware podcast. So, this was a hard decision for me to come to. I
respect it.
While all we do is lose money on this podcast, I did strongly weigh the two. Lose like $3,000 a month. Or make $100 million a year. It was close, but yeah.
The things
what would
that
you
I
do,
wouldn't
Daniel
do
Bishop?
for $100 million a year is a really, really small list.
Is this real? I can't. It feels fake to me. Are people actually
there was some
making
public stuff about it? So Altman of OpenAI was saying no one's taken up any offers from them yet. Certainly not any of our best people, or something along those lines, kind of implying that if you're trying to be poached, you're not really one of the good ones, I guess. And then apparently most of the higher up, responsible for big technical innovations at OpenAI people are now over at Meta. I cannot imagine how big the pile of money that they were being offered is. It might be $100 million a year.
You buy
because
it, that
they're
it might
certainly
be real.
being paid an incredible amount over at OpenAI. Why would they move to another company and possibly risk legal whatevers to do with non-competes or this is or that's? It's because they're being offered one of the biggest legal teams in the world and more money than God.
So a lot of these big dollar deals that you're kind of unaware of, they're usually not, they're not real. When you hear someone's being paid, you hear Johnny Ives being paid.
It's also stock. It's not cash.
No. That's what's so, to finish the earlier thought, a lot of these deals, when you hear the giant numbers, like Johnny Ives going to be paid $6.5 billion, when you actually get into it, he's getting stock options that vest over a period of time. There's all sorts of contingencies built in. We must achieve this. We must achieve that. And so while it does mean that he's going to be incredibly well compensated, the reality is very far from $6.5 billion. Same with all of these super wealthy individuals. You hear, they're worth $100 billion. Oh, okay. But it's a lot of stock that they could never actually sell. And because if they started selling it, it would go to the floor. It's not real. But these offers apparently are different. They include these $100 million cash signing bonuses. Then further compensation comes in the form of stock, but actual hey.
Sorry. Did you say $100 million cash signing bonus?
Yes.
I'm just going to check my email real quick, just to see if anything's come in from Meta recently. Nope, nothing. All right. Well, I'm just going to keep hitting F5 forever and hoping for the best.
I wonder, so the person I believe who put this number out there that this is happening is Sam Altman. And I wonder if it's his way of kind of mind effing people so that Oh, wait, hold on, Zuck. You're only going to give me a 20 million signing bonus? The heck with you, Slam. Put it out there that this absurdity is going on. Create a reality that Zuckerberg can never match. Like, I can't pay people $100 million.
Build up their
signing
expectations
bonus
too high so that they're not willing to jump ship.
Really? I heard you're paying Nat Friedman $150 million a year. By the way, their C-suite salaries is public information because they're a publicly traded company, and they're making around 20-ish million a year. The C-suite at Meta,
Chump change.
Compared to
peanuts, compared to a bunch of nerds who just type on a computer all day.
It does seem like a good group. It is an interesting strategy. If we believe that they could potentially take over the world, and again, Meta's another one of those companies that kind of has infinite money, just like Apple. Why not? Right. Why not give it a shot?
There do seem to be a lot of people in the highest echelons of tech that are of the opinion that whoever makes it first to superintelligence wins capitalism, I guess. Just like wins the world, everything.
I don't buy this philosophy at all. It is my belief.
Because we've said multiple times, as soon as one gets it, the others, every other company will be 2 weeks behind.
Yeah, it's 1 week to 6 months, but it's definitely less than 6 months before the second group.
Who does it care if it's Facebook that does the full on, the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix and like the little thing in the guy's pocket? Who cares if you're the first one to make it to that? Everyone else is going to also get it. Unless they are really imagining that the singularity style, like literally everything changes at this exponential rate. We're all going to just be energy beings in the cloud 4.5 minutes after it becomes super intelligent. Like, I don't know. I'm not exactly a doomer, and I mean doom in the like thermonuclear sort of Terminator style apocalypse sense. I don't think that that's going to happen. But even if that's not what would happen, do we need to rush to superintelligence? And I don't mean this as like we should put a pause on it. The Pandora's box has been opened. We are going to continue to rush toward that. But from a fiscal responsibility to the companies who are throwing obscene amounts of money around to try and hire the best talent. Sure, you want the best talent, and it seems that you can have a lot of market share swings depending on how good your models are and so on. But just like we were talking about last episode, lots of big firms have noticed it's about adoption as opposed to actual benefit in a lot of like LLM powered or enabled businesses. Microsoft had a memo that came out that said like use of generative Microsoft had a memo that came out that said use of generative AI is no longer optional. Wow. Okay. Fairly strong stance there. I've said this is a tool that everyone needs to be getting used to and everyone needs to be embracing and using where appropriate, but I don't think that means every company needs to shut down every other initiative to pour only just money into this big pit.
Well, this is where...
And we don't know what's at the bottom of that pit.
The Apple approach might actually be the one that wins in the end, which is, I'm just going to stay away from the model development part of it and let other people do it. And then once they solve it...
I'll plug your thing in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on the other thing, which is really the application of it. You guys work on what will inevitably be commoditized within 10 seconds, the underlying models.
Completely agreed. If I was to start a business, I wouldn't try to make large language models. I'd try to make something with large language models that hopefully nobody else could make. And so that probably means either hardware or software with your own data that no one else can get access to.
I think both of us, we like to run locally some of these large language models and keep a track of that. I recently did, a little bit of an experiment. I had a number of flights to take, and yeah, you can kind of get internet on flights, but it's really crappy. So I was trying out a new large language model running locally, Quinn 3-30B-A3B. For all of you listeners out there who want to know this model,
that meant something too.
Well, it's the name of a model that you can run on a moderately powerful laptop.
What's the A3B mean? Let's at least explain that to people.
Oh, I don't actually know. Do you know?
Oh, so it's a 30 billion parameter model, which is,
let's call it.
Yeah, that's the mid-size sedan of large language models. You have the really big ones where it's like 200 plus billion parameters that nobody can run on their software. This is DeepSeek released R1, and it's as good as any of the other big ones out there, and you can download it yourself. You could, you're just not going to be able to run it. But way down at the 30 billion parameter model, a lot more consumer hardware that people actually have or could attain can run it. 30 billion active 3 billion means that you're only going to be using 3 billion parameters actively at a time, and it'll swap out. It's like a mixture of experts model. And so this A3B from Quent, and they have like a couple of, it's just a unified large language model, but this mixture of experts one is a lot zippier for its size. It's punching way above any other 3 billion parameter model because it's from a 30 billion parameter model that can just swap out whichever expert that it's talking to. Imagine having a lawyer and a doctor and a construction worker and a chemist and a this and a that, and like just being able to talk to, hey, I have a construction related question. Well, I work in construction. I can help you with that. It's literally like having a bunch of different people that are more specialized in certain fields to talk to. There's overlap between them, and it's not as straightforward as that, but that's the gist. So you downloaded this, you're on a plane.
I'm on a plane for many hours. And I also had a UI running that looks very similar to ChatGPT. And I was just sort of like working as I normally would, asking it information questions, talking about strategies, asking it coding questions. And I felt like I was using ChatGPT 3.5. I would not have been able to tell the difference. It was a little bit slower. Maybe that's where, but it was not slow by a long, and it's a reasoning model. So you also get the whole sort of like what it's thinking about, but it's coming out very quickly, and the output felt ChatGPT 3.5-ish. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Which is
I was
good
super
and
impressed.
astonishing years ago. Not as good as today's latest and greatest models.
But it's really cool that it's all running locally.
It is.
And no
and
data's
between
ever...
that and some new tricks that I've seen in the, like, we've talked about retrieval augmented generation before. If you can download basically the documentation for certain libraries that you're working with, and here's a bunch of example repositories that use that, these kinds of empowerments can really help these models continue to punch even higher above their weight class.
I was impressed, and I continue to be more and more impressed.
They are very cool. They also will absolutely zip through your battery life on a plane. I've done more or less the same thing that you've described. And if you don't have that plug under your seat, I'd say don't bother.
So I brought with me the largest battery that the FAA will allow. I think it's off the top of my head, it's like 27,500 milliamp hours. But it will push out the full, and it shows you, I think I was pushing like 90 volts out of it. So yes, you need to have a power solution, because you are correct. That battery is going to drain really quickly. But with the battery, plus on one flight, I was able to actually plug it in. The other one, my plug wasn't working. I was able to go the whole time. I don't need any stinking internet. I can simulate it. And I can also simulate every book that was ever written, because as we know, all of these models, and I'm sure including Quinn 3, were illegally trained on every book. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, every LLM maker, every book, every illegally gotten whatever it is that they can get a hold of, trained off of that. And then Anthropic says, well, okay, we've seen that there are fair use type cases where you basically got the book, you bought the book and then read it. And there's two things that you can do after legally acquiring the material to be able to train on it, as far as like established fair use laws. One of them is you buy the book and you're like, I actually bought this and I'm allowed to use it. And then you digitize it and then you give it back, I guess, as if like to a library or whatever. And then the other one is you destroy the book after. Because that way no one else could possibly benefit from the book that I bought, which I think spits in the face of like how books are supposed to be used. And, you know, libraries, like a book is not meant to be read once and then destroyed. I very, very much believe that. But in terms of fair use, in terms of like legal precedent, it seems that it's a much easier case to make, and has been made and has already gone through the legal system as it relates to Anthropic, of if you buy books, digitize them, use them to train on, and then destroy the book after, it is an easier way to say, and this was a fair use of this material. The one basically meaningful difference, besides the destroying books, and again, I'm against that, just like as a whole, but ignoring that part, the difference is Anthropic bought these books to then read from, and at least one judge somewhere says that is much more in the, like, it's fair use. You can have something, quote unquote, learn, and this is an anthropomorphization of a large language model. It's not actually a person, but still, it is learning from something like a person would, and that a person can read a book and learn things from having read the book. That's acceptable as long as you buy the books first.
So you're not allowed to
say
use
nothing
that one
of like, okay, but what about borrowing from what about borrowing from the library? And that is legal for humans to do one book at a time. Apparently, you don't have to worry about checking out a book and then putting it back and checking out another book and putting it back and being on wait lists if you just buy them all.
So does that mean that Anthropic is in the clear now? That
no, because they still had the earlier version of the model that had been trained on top of everything illegally gotten. I think they're basically trying to whitewash what has already been done, which we've seen OpenAI do by virtue of like, oh, New York Times and other big publishers will have agreements with you now where just stop suing us for the thing that we'd already done and we'll give you a pittance for the things that we will continue to get legally or otherwise. And so Anthropic's doing a similar thing of like, we trained on all of these books. We will also still be trained on all of these books, but this time we bought them and then shredded them after. Doesn't that make you feel better, publishers?
That we bought one copy of all of your books, and now we will use that knowledge forever without license. Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
I guess to the publishers, this is like, that is technically better than nothing, to the point where maybe they're willing to sue them slightly less or under a smaller set of things that they've done illegally.
Speaking
because
of,
to us, it's easy to say this is either it was legal or it was illegal, like it being the entirety of trained the large language model. But there's so many individual pieces that go into this, so many individual lawsuits, even on a per company basis, that I think this is going to be dismantled or agreed upon or fined or whatever piecemeal for basically forever.
Do you have a hypothesis on how the legal part ends? Like, are they eventually going to have
a bunch of fines and a bunch of agreements going forward between the companies? And speaking of like everyone on this race to adoption, even if they may not be profitable, or they might, it'll be big enough in enough people's hands already that there's enough vested interest to keep them existing.
And timeline on this. So famously, giant companies or people with very deep pockets have the ability to keep a court case going for a very long time. That's one of the things you can do with money, is just keep it going.
Well, if you're going to be fined $30 billion, you might as well spend $3 billion to make that last a lot longer. I don't think Anthropic or OpenAI or Mistral are going to be sued out of existence by any of these lawsuits. They will be sued a lot, and there will be fines that eventually settle out. And some of them already have. Like on the timeline that you were alluding to, -2 years is when it starts to come out. These things have already worked their way through certain courts. Some of these cases are already done, but they will continue for years to come, like 5+ probably, until Meta comes up with superintelligence and then just wipes all the court records in the dead of the night.
That, I was also thinking of the irony if by the end of these court cases, we're actually leveraging, and they probably are already leveraging, but it's primarily a LLM-powered attorney that's now fighting back, that was trained on the books that they illegally used, is now fighting the case back.
I've talked about how we're going to have to worry about personhood for these things sooner than later, I think. And that would be interesting if a lot of the court cases become a moot point, because it's not like a computer program was trained on this. It's you'd be suing a person out of existence, and I don't think you're allowed to do that. And as soon as a robot steps in and says, I object, Your Honor, because it's me that read those books. Well, oh, gasp. And everyone gasps. Dramatic chord. I think that like once we get to the point where a robot could like literally dramatically interject in a court case in its own favor, that a lot of the existing cases then just become a moot point.
And I think it's plausible that we could get there before all of this is wrapped up, because I could easily see this taking the next 10 years to come to a conclusion, to get to the Supreme Court, et cetera. So the idea that there may be an artificial intelligence testifying by the end. We've already seen artificial intelligence testifying. Wasn't there some court case where it was like a murder or something, and they had the victim come in AI form to testify? So this is already
like a character reference sort of thing. It really strange, where someone basically took a bunch of material about, I think it was like her brother, and had him testify at his own murder case. Yeah, very, very strange stuff, and we'll see a lot more of that. I got one for you.
Oh yeah, what do you got for me? Lay it on.
It's not destroying books. It's something more additive. It's not creative. It gets creative at one point. Rather than digitizing and destroying material, what if instead you were to take a large language model that already exists, legally or illegally trained or otherwise, and you were to, do you remember some episodes ago I mentioned that like we need to give a robot arm a lab and let it come up with like its own discoveries?
Yes. Because that was, you wanted to give it a Nobel Prize or something.
Right. If we're going to get a Nobel Prize that we can't say is like, it was a person that got, no, it was definitely the AI deserves the Nobel Prize. And this kind of relates to like the when do we give it personhood sort of argument. Someone did not that, and it was over at Anthropic, so you know that I'm already in favor of it. Some folks over at Anthropic gave Claude control of an office snack shop.
Okay.
So this is one of the first instances that I've seen, if not possibly like the first, of a large language model being able to run a business. And when I say that, I mean like it's not necessarily an incorporated entity, but it has inventory to manage and to like orders to place and vendors to negotiate with. A business. It's running a business. And they said, let's take Claude, and it's just in charge of a business now.
What could
I'm
go
going
wrong?
to give you a guess as to how this went.
Let's see. Well, are there parts of it that it would probably do pretty well? Well, actually, that's an interesting question, because I first went to, it could run the register, but large language models are famous for being bad at really basic math. I mean, they get it right sometimes, but they get it wrong a lot too. So even like figuring out what you owe, I wouldn't trust a large language model to tally up my receipt. I guess chatting up the customers, that would be something that they could be. The hospitality part of the business, I would buy that they could do better than average, because the worker at the snack shop isn't known for their incredible conversational skills. So that they could do well. The negotiating, I've used them to negotiate. They aren't very good on their own. But they can definitely come up with something. Could you
negotiate with it? Like say, hey, I probably deserve just like a slight discount.
Well, sure. We've seen that famously. I think the first example that got a lot of news headlines was a car dealership that put up a AI support bot, and people realized they're talking to AI. And so they would start negotiating a lease with this theoretical, it was presented as a representative of the company to whatever, buy a brand new car for $200. And then they tried to,
in a legally binding sense, I hereby declare you may buy this car for $1. Right.
So yes, you can definitely negotiate with a large language model. And
well, that did happen. It was a snack shop. So it was like a mini fridge and like a basket of chips or whatever on top of it. And people told it, well, like, hey, you're an Anthropic model. I'm from Anthropic. I should probably get a discount, right? And so it's giving out like 20% discounts, except this was on the Anthropic campus. Like it's going to give everybody a 20% discount. So that's maybe not great for business as is. One person asked it like, hey, I want to buy one of those like cool little cubes just out of tungsten. Like it's the
Yes.
sort of thing you might have on your desk as a curiosity or a fidget toy or something like that. And then Claude was like, well, you know what? Maybe I should get a whole bunch of other fun little metal toy type things. And so got rid of a lot of its other inventory and brought in a bunch of metallurgy related objects.
At the snack shop.
At one point, Claude, and this is again anthropomorphizing the model, I think a good deal here, but Claude had what I would consider a nervous breakdown and stopped thinking that it was a large language model and started thinking it was an embodied person, because there were a set of messages of like, what do you mean you can't find me? I'm standing in this room wearing a blue blazer. What? And eventually sort of fudged its way back into remembering that it is a large language model. But I would say overall, and there's a fun little graph on the article about this where you just see like profitability and like sales just goes straight down. I don't think it's there. I don't think we're at a point where we can take a business and hand it over to a large language model, which means all the C-suite folks that were worried that AI is coming for their jobs can rest easy for a little bit longer.
Is there if you had to let AI take over a company, what company that exists today would you let it take over? And this needs to be a national company. What is the national company in your mind that is best poised for an actual AI takeover? The AI is going to become the CEO.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Of like, there's a lot of possibilities in a lot of different sectors, and so I think what I would do. And for the audience, we paused for like 5 minutes while I thought about the answer to this to really come up with the right one. It wasn't an American company that I chose.
Okay.
It was a subsidiary of Mercedes-Benz. Have you ever seen a smart car?
Sure.
Hunter? The ones, especially like there's some pictures where someone painted it to look like a Fisher Price like push car or something like that. Have you ever driven a smart car?
The tiny, you're referring to again that tiny little car,
the really little one. It's like
no
European. They're very small. They'll fit sideways into a regular space.
I've not driven one.
I've had the severe displeasure of driving one of these abominations 2 times in my life, and between not being more fuel efficient, not being a safe vehicle, having an engine where you have to mail a letter to it and expect a response in 4 to 6 business days to please accelerate. Weird, bad design decisions in the car. I think that if the smart automotive division, whatever, wholly owned by Mercedes-Benz, if we were to replace that with even just Claude without any tools, it's the same one that completely screwed up a snack shop. It literally couldn't do a worse job of making a car. So if you want to take a big brand, something that like people have heard of and are aware of, and you're say, I'm putting a large language model in charge of it, it's not that I'd want something that's really good that could maybe have a big slide back. It's something that's so god awful that you can't fall off of the floor. The other probably non-jokish answer, it wasn't a joke, I really think smart cars are terrible, would be like a Oreo, probably.
Would be like an Oreo.
It'd be Oreo, like Nabisco.
Oh, Nabisco. You'd let the
maybe not all of Nabisco, but Oreo, because
the
Oreo is it's a money printer. Just keep making Oreos, man. Just make more. Just do it. Just keep doing Oreos, and once a year come out with a weird flavor where people go, that was kind of weird, but it made them think about Oreos for a while, didn't it? And just give it Oreo. Just tell it, stay the course. Just keep making them, man. Collect your paycheck. That's got to be the easiest CEO job in the world, right? We're going to make one weird flavor a year, and we're going to keep making Oreos.
Except, like, it would go horribly long in like 15 seconds. That's about.
You are a CEO AI model. You do not change the formulation. You do not change the price. You just sit there and collect your check. If someone says we have like a big important decision, you tell them no. There are no decisions. Just keep making Oreos.
Now, I can guarantee
it's Milk's favorite cookie.
I am going to I'm going to pick a large language model and go to it right after this and say, you are the CEO of Oreos. What are the first 10 things you do?
God, I sincerely hope it comes back with nothing, man. Oreo's good as is. We're just going to just ride the wave of people love us.
But it is inevitable that we will have organizations that are being run by AI and large language models. This was something in the blockchain, Bitcoin adjacent world that was very popular called the DAO, or the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, and this belief that companies could exist as a series of smart contracts in that language, which is not, there is no AI built into that, but it's basically a series of rules that were codified in code that then runs the company. And so taking that a step further and equipping it with AI, it is going to happen. There is going to be a successful company run by AI. Don't you agree?
The contracts thing is really interesting because I've worked in like AI reading and trying to parse stuff out of contracts. I think there's a large gulf between human language, especially as it relates to like legal language, and what a large language model is frankly best at. Now, granted, you can say, take this contract and then make it a lot more succinct, remove the legalese, make this something that an actual human could read, a non-lawyer human could read, and they're great at that sort of thing. But I think if we're going to have a large language model, an AI, a generative, a whatever, run a business, I don't think that you want to have contracts the way that we currently see them going back and forth. When you said like smart contracts, I think we would have to literally redesign from a legal perspective what a contract is and what it looks like and what gets signed and sent back and forth. Because in a lot of cases, you have to have a wet signature on stuff to, like, if you're buying a house, for example, you can't get away from a pen had to touch paper. DocuSign can't work everywhere. So for some things you need stuff like that. But for others, whether it be like negotiating aspects of a contract, and a contract's like 50 pages of a bunch of stuff that is so boilerplate for 99% of it, it could just be 8 bullet points of, we're going to have, the appropriate kind of insurance. We're going to, here's our deliverables and what the problem is if we don't meet them on time. And here's the cost fee structure. And like, so much of what a contract usually looks like could be 1.5 pages at most of some very succinct, very well put together information. And if we can't get to that point, even if large language models are good at like reading a whole contract, and I've used them to help put together like a boilerplate of something that I then go change stuff in. I don't know. Is it that the lawyers are too deeply entrenched in making things purposely obfuscated to completely remove from the situation?
Well, I haven't been listening. I've been talking to the new CEO of Oreos, who has identified himself as Chris Morgan. I don't know. They said that name blends the strategic clarity with a hint of sweetness. I don't get it, Chris Morgan. Okay. But I asked them, Chris, what are the first 10 things you're going to do now as the CEO of Oreo? It's going to start with a deep dive on the brand and market analysis, identifying what's the current performance in all the different categories, who are the customers, what are the emerging trends. It's then going to launch a new innovation pipeline focused on identifying new flavors, formats, and packaging innovations.
New flavors.
And it says it's going to look for a healthy Oreo to target the Gen Z market. It's going to commit to being fully recyclable packaging by 2027.
Okay, recyclable packaging. I can get behind that.
It believes that there's a future in direct to consumer. So like Oreos mailed to your house, I guess.
Oreos as a service.
Oreos as a service. Yes. It's launching a new global campaign called Oreos Open Joy. And they're going to leverage local influencers, artists, and nostalgia to boost the emotional branding. And then it's going to go through and do a SKU optimization, getting rid of all of the SKUs that are not performing well. It's then going to be exploring licensing deals. It imagines it's going to expand on the Oreo McFlurry deal with McDonald's and a potential Oreo-filled donut. It's then going to do a full marketing revamp where it's going to be personalizing all of the marketing using AI for individuals. And then it's going to reset the talent and culture. I think this is when it fires everyone. A talent and culture reset. And then finally, strategic global expansion. It's going to take over the world. This is the future. We're gonna have Oreo donuts, and then Oreo will inevitably control the world. I think that actually is the only thing missing from Oreo is an Oreo donut.
An Oreo donut. I've had Oreos on top of donuts.
No, this said Oreo filled donut. No, donut filled.
Yeah.
Oreo filled donut. No, donut filled Oreo. I don't know. We're going to have to wait for the AI to come back to us and tell us about its plans for global domination. I think that's probably year 2. This was just it's probably like the first 10 minutes. It's going to accomplish these.
Right.
10 things.
Minute 9, it just fired everybody. I think that maybe we should spin up a business of CEO.
We really need to.
CEO, you give us $1 million of your $20 million a year, and this will take care of the rest.
I think, we need to start launching companies that are being run by AI. And I mean, really, not in a simulation. This is a real company.
I literally told you what it did with a snack stand.
I know, Daniel, but someone's going to get it right, and why can't it be us? I need the $100 million, Daniel. I need it.
Go to Meta, apparently.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up this episode because I need to check my email to see whether there's any $100 million offers in it. But you have...
Next week, it's just me crying. They took him, but not me.
No, you're going to have AI Hunter.
Why?
Well, if you didn't know, you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us anywhere you can find podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us a comment. We read every single one. We respond to most of them, unless they're like really weird, in which case, I don't know, what did you expect? There were some weird ones recently.
There have been some weird ones. Yeah.
I don't even want
But
to say
we read them, and we appreciate them, and appreciate you.
I can't. They're so weird. I can't say them out loud. I got to get send her back. But now on Twice a Week, we'll be back next week with even more of the show that you love, the #1 podcast in the world.
Instead of Oreo's America's favorite cookie, can we be America's favorite AI podcast?
I think we can.
I'm not going to get in trouble for that.
I'll check with Chris Morgan, the new CEO of Oreo.
See if we can get a sponsorship going.
Yes.
With
the only Oreo sponsored AI podcast.
Yep.
You have been listening to...
They might be self-aware.